All right, folks, so I'm going to explain some things to you about line types and lettering. And once you watch this little presentation, you should be able to take the quiz that goes along with it. And you can try taking the quiz as many times as you need to until you get the answers right. The quiz will automatically grade you, so you can rewatch these as you go. So let's start off with what are the different line patterns, and what do I mean when I say a thick or a thin line? So a thick line is a line that shows up heavier on the drawing. It usually implies that the line is more important or needs to be more paid attention to. And the range for thick lines is about 0.4 to 0.7 millimeters. When we are using mechanical pencils and drawing things on our own, it depends on what kind of size lead holder you get. The 0.5 to 0.7 would be acceptable to use for a thick line. And then thin lines can range really from 0.15 to 0.3 millimeters. And again, you can get a corresponding mechanical pencil that goes along with that, or I have tricks that I use to create a thinner line type that falls within that range using a thick line by twisting it instead of drawing it at a perpendicular angle. Now, those are the line thicknesses, and we're using the very generic thicknesses for mechanical design, just to start there. The next few things here are all the different types of patterns you might see. So each one of these are defined as the pattern, but you can have a different line type that uses that same pattern. So the pattern is a continuous line, which gets used for object lines most often, and then it can be used for a variety of other things, depending on its thickness or thinness. Hidden lines are usually used to show features that you can't see, but it's also just a pattern where it's just a series of short dashes. So you're going to find at different disciplines that a hidden line pattern might mean something different on a mechanical drawing than it does on a architectural drawing, for instance. Phantom lines are a series of long, too short, and repeated pattern. And again, depending on whether it's thick or thin, can change what it means. And it can also be used in a variety of disciplines and mean something different by discipline. This one's hard to see, but it is a series of little dots, and it's called a dot or a stitch pattern. And it's usually used in creating, what are they called? Patterns, I guess, for clothing design. So that's why I think it's called a stitch pattern. So we're not going to probably see that stitch pattern much with the types of drawings we're going to be looking at, but it's called a dot or a stitch pattern. And then the last one I have on this page is a center line. And a center line is a series of long and then short dashes, long and then short dashes. So you'll see that a center line pattern is used within a symmetry line. So the center line pattern can be seen in a lot of places. It might be seen in a different discipline as well and mean something different. So here's some examples of those patterns and lines at work within a drawing. So we have a standard orthographic view drawing. We've got front, top, and right side views of this isometric object up here. And so what you're seeing in the this example here is I've identified what do the different line types do. So let's look at center lines right now. So a center line is here and here. And this is a center mark where you really are taking two of those center lines with the same long dash, short dash, long dash pattern and crossing them over each other to indicate where the center of a circular feature is. It turns into a center line when we see it from the side. And so you can see in the 3D view, we've got the plane or the axes from which you would probably have the drill follow to drill that hole in the part. And then you have the center mark indicating where to center that drill. And so we see the side view of that path that the drill would take here and here. And in the top view, we see the bullseye, basically, where do we line that drill up for the part to drill that hole in the precise location. So that's the difference between center line and center mark. A hidden line is any edge that you can't see from the perspective that you're looking at the object in. So we have no hidden lines in this top view because we there are no hidden lines. I can see all the edges that are indicating this feature. I can see all the edges that are indicating the outside boundaries of the object, and then I can see the edge for the true shape of the circle. In this view, we don't have we have hidden lines just where the circle would pass through the solid here. So those are hidden lines to show that circle's diameter there. And then in this view here, we actually have hidden lines here, where this would become a hidden line if we're looking from this direction. That's this view is looking in this direction. And we also can see the hidden lines beyond of the hole again. The distance between the hidden lines would match the diameter. And then lastly, a visible or object line is pretty clear. It's any edge that you can see that you can see in the orthographic view you're looking in. So I can see these three edges, for instance. There are 1, 2, 3 edges. This edge right here, yeah, I can also see, but it's behind the edge that's in front, so you only need to represent that with one line. Continuing with different line types, we have an example of a cutting plane line here and a viewing plane line here. And the difference between the two is the cutting plane line actually shows where you're cutting through an object. What's interesting about this particular example is this cutting plane line isn't cutting through the object straight across, because otherwise it would give us a distorted view of this feature here. So the convention is to cut the object and imagine rotating the view from here, from the center of the circle to here, rotating it in place so that you'd actually see the true distance from the center of the hole to the edge of the block by rotating that view at the 45-degree angle that it's in. So this is not exactly what it would look like if we were to cut the object like this, but we rotate this portion of it so it lines up with the other side, and that's how that section view gets drawn. Whenever you have a cutting plane line and a section view, you have section lines. Section lines indicate where you're slicing through material, and it can also indicate the material type. So in this example, this type of pattern usually means iron, or it's called the standard hatch pattern. So I am indicating with this line pattern and the section lines that this is made out of iron. We saw hidden lines in the previous example, but I wanted to show here how hidden lines are being used to show a threaded feature. So imagine this hole here has a thread on the inside of it. So we would put a screw in through this and it would fit perfectly inside. So we're seeing two hidden lines here to indicate both the inside and outside diameter of those threads. And so that's the way that we would see that in this section view. So notice that the lines that would have been hidden lines in a conventional view become object lines, and any features that you can see by cutting through become object lines rather than hidden lines. In this example too, the cutting plane line does not need to be labeled because it's showing up orthographically below the view that we're where the section is being taken. But notice that this view has a label below it and it corresponds with the label behind the viewing plane line. This is called a removed view. And all that means is that it's not set up orthographically. If it was set up orthographically, this view would be turned at a 45-degree angle and projected off of this surface here. And I wouldn't need to show the viewing plane line to indicate where that view is being taken. So clearly this is showing us the end view of that screw hole. And we're showing that that's that view by matching the letters behind the viewing plane line with the actual view. Now, the last example of line types, this is a really good reference drawing to use to see examples of all kinds of line types in action, including dimension lines and extension lines that we didn't see previously. We also have all of these notes that are pointing to things. We call those leaders. The arrow, as it points to an object, then usually follows a note that indicates something about that particular object you're pointing to. So it's called a local note, but it's the line type that you would call this, or the line would be a leader line. So here we're seeing examples of phantom lines here. So in this case, the phantom line is showing an alternate position for this handle to be in. We're seeing a center line here that shows the path that the handle follows. We see the center line up here that indicates where is the pivot point for that handle. We're also seeing a center line through the pin that holds the handle in place and makes it so whatever mechanism that it's turning along the shaft turns along with that handle. Here's a section view that is in the correct orthographic position, but they have labeled it anyway. So notice that if I follow a line straight down like that, it lines up with that section view. So that section view shows you that this, if we were to cut through this handle, that's what we would see, an oval shape, solid oval material. And this is our viewing plane view associated with a viewing plane line. We have a viewing plane line here with the letters indicated behind it. The view shows up over here. So that's again another example of a removed view. Some other line types that we didn't have a chance to really show examples of, because I was showing the ones you're going to see the most, is a chain line. Now notice the pattern on a chain line is a center line, but it's thick. And what a chain line indicates is how you're handling the surface of the area that the chain line hovers over. So if this is a handle, we'd probably want to put something on the handle so it would be slip resistant as we grab it and move it from one position to another. So that chain line might have a note associated with it that may say apply non-stick or apply a knurl or a adhesive non-slip material to this handle. That might be something that you would see as an example that would be associated with a chain line. The rest of the line types here we've covered, but you can see them working within a mechanical drawing. And in this view, we have examples of some different types of sections that I wanted to show that also have line types that you can see. So this section is called a remove. This is a revolve section where we revolve the section right in place of the actual part. And this is a remove section. If we take it out and move it outside of the part, it's no longer orthographically projected. It's removed because it's not in the orthographic position. If this was in the right position, it would either be over here or over here. And you can see by the way the layout of the sheet is, it makes a lot more sense to just put that below the view instead and call it a removed section. This is another revolve section that shows us that there's a thickness here on the inside and a hollowness in the middle that we can't see. So it's showing us that information there in that revolved section. And then we're seeing a whole bunch of examples of dimension lines and extension lines here and leaders. Architectural plans, hidden lines may mean something different. So in this example, these hidden lines that we're seeing here and over the closet door are examples of things that are above us in our floor plan. So in an architectural floor plan, we show everything from 4 feet above the floor line down as solid lines. And then we show anything that's happening above us that's really important for us to know. Like if there was a skylight in this kitchen, for instance, we would see it as a hidden line in here to show that there's a skylight above in the kitchen. Or in this case, we're seeing our upper cabinets. And we're also seeing the cabinets below the countertops here showing us hidden lines, which can be a little bit confusing, but once you understand how to read a floor plan, you'll get to know what a hidden line might mean in each example view. In this case too, this hatch pattern is indicating a floor finish and not a section. This is an example of an architectural section here, and we have a whole bunch of different line patterns that are being used to indicate materials. So that's obviously brick. Down here we have this kind of stippled material that's supposed to indicate concrete. And then concrete in section, let me see if I can zoom in on that a little bit. Can I zoom in? I guess I can't. Nope, I guess I can't zoom in any closer. But the pattern here is a series of dots and little triangles that indicate concrete. And then this is the standard earth hatch pattern that shows undisturbed earth. And then we're seeing clean fill here. And then a bunch of lines, continuous lines, but all at different line weights to show all of the pieces and parts that go into building a house. So this is the section view, usually is the view that shows you the most information about how the house is being built and what it's being built with. Here's an example of electrical plan. So in this case, a center line is being used here. We look at the legend, it's not being used to represent the center of something, it's actually being used as the line pattern to indicate the connections between the receptacles, the electrical either lights or fans and switches that are connected. So the theoretical wiring between those things to show how they're going to be connected. And then here's an example of the civil plot plan, site plan. And phantom lines in this case are being used for property lines. And we have thin continuous lines being used for contour lines. And you can see that every so often the contour line will have a value associated with it. 3,360 might be 3,360 feet above sea level. And then a thick continuous line is being used to show where a new or proposed 4-bedroom home is going. So that being the most important information on the site plan, all of this site information might already, that's in reference to what are we doing, what are we building? Well, we're building this new building. We want to show you exactly where it's going. So this is got a hierarchy of importance where, hey, we really need to make sure people see that building, and then we really need to make sure people see where those property lines are. And that's it. So I want you to take a quiz, and the quiz will go over whether or not you understand the different line patterns, then line types and how they might be being used in a drawing. And you can certainly rewatch or review this as many times as you need to and go through the quiz. But this gives you an example of what graphic standards are. They include line weights, line types, lettering. And we didn't get a chance to talk about lettering. This is just about lines. And symbols. So just lines is one topic for this, for graphic standards, and the importance of following the rules makes it so drawings can be read universally.